If you say something and I take it personally, and then I go back home, I tell my family, I tell my colleagues, maybe sometimes just ask the other person, what do you mean?
Yeah.
What did you mean when you said that? What did you mean when you did that? But then it takes, I think, courage to, because sometimes we are afraid of the answer, what the answer might be, or challenging somebody or giving somebody feedback.
Well, if you ask, you should first of all have time to listen. And if you ask, you should ask with the intention of really hearing what the other person has to say. And just hearing what the other person has to say doesn't mean that you validate it. But it makes you to be in a situation where you can actually judge what you heard. And it might be that after listening, you get even more triggered. That person is doubling down on his racist or misogynic or whatever ideology. But then at least you have more validation for the right to be triggered. That maybe this is a situation where you should be triggered, and now you know. So that can be a good thing as well. But I would say one thing also, that when it comes to feedback, I would like to say two things. One thing is that feedback delivered without love is just brutal.
Oh.
I mean, if you give someone feedback, do it with the intention of either making the life better for that person, if it's positive feedback, or helping him or her improve something that needs to be improved. So do it with a good intention. And the other thing is timing. Consider when and where you give the feedback. If someone is stressed or in a hurry, that's not a good situation to give feedback.
No.
If someone going like Friday afternoon, don't give employees negative feedback on a Friday afternoon. It's going to wreck their weekend. That's not a good timing. And also don't give feedback in front of an audience.
Because you might have the best intentions.
Yeah.
It's out of love.
Sure.
But if the timing is wrong or bad, it's just not going to work.
It's not going to happen anything good out of that, for sure.
I mean, in my experience, the times where I've given feedback and I've started with, this is what I want to talk about, and here's my intention, even if it's a difficult subject, my experience is people listen more. But if I double down on them and I tell them, don't do this again, this is what you did, I don't like it, don't do it again, then the other person usually gets defensive. And especially in some cultures, I think in the West, we are pretty direct. We tell people what we think, and what we say matters. But in some cultures, you have to be indirect in the way you deliver your feedback. And you can't just start delivering bad news. You have to talk about, a subject, warm them up, and then give them the feedback.
Sure.
But at least in Sweden, and this is my perspective, is that if I'm going to deliver bad news, I will let you know, Patrick, this conversation will be probably difficult for you, but it's necessary because I want you to improve. And then I give you the feedback. But for instance, I think in the Middle East, this is not how you give feedback, because the other person is going to, they want to build trust first. And so you talk about something else, and then when you have established trust, you can give the feedback.
Yeah, that's part of it, definitely. I would like to say some things about that. I think that Sweden is semi-direct. Germany would be more direct. If you talk to a Dutch person, he would not say Swedes are direct. Dutch people are direct. There are no cushions in between anything happening there. So we're not the world champions on directness, but definitely, as you say, if you compare to, for example, the Middle East or also many Asian cultures, yeah, we are much more direct. And I might test an idea here. I'm not completely sure it's right, but could that have something to do with individualism?
That's interesting. Because
in many other cultures, like, for example, the Middle East, it's much more collectivist. And then the notion of saving face becomes so important. So I think that's one of the reasons why you have to move like that, to keep the social fabric together. Whereas in a Swedish, or even more Dutch-German context, the individual is responsible for his or her actions, and hence expect to get feedback on them. I think that could be one of the explanations, perhaps.
In group-oriented cultures, it's also not only what you say, and I think I heard this from you a couple of years ago, but it's also how you say it, and also what is said between the lines, what is not said.
Yeah, subtext.
The context matters.
Context matters, and the subtext matters a lot.
What do you mean by subtext?
Subtext is what you don't say, like in between the lines. Like you say this, but you mean this. And to understand what this is, you need to understand the culture.
So in order to understand what is not said, you have to understand the culture as well.
Yeah. And that quite often comes later than understanding the actual language, the linguistic part of the language.